2009 Newman International Academy. We've taken the following employment actions. We have terminated Mr. Ruel Barbie, who was a teacher, Miss Gabrielle Little, who was a coach, and we have terminated the principal, Mr. Rick Adams, who, while under investigation, resigned. We have placed the athletic director, head varsity girls basketball coach, and a part-time assistant football coach on administrative leave with pay while we do these investigations. We're working closely with law enforcement and all relevant authorities to ensure that a thorough and transparent investigation is conducted. We will continue to provide updates as permitted by law, and we encourage any parents or students with concerns to reach out to us directly. Our commitment to student safety is unwavering. We're grateful for your trust, patience, partnership as we work through this challenging time together. Thank you for being a part of the Newman International family.
Hello, I'm Chief Matthew Ankowiak. That's M-A-T-T-H-E-W. My last name is A-N-T-K-O-W-I-A-K. I'm going to read a brief statement, and then I'll take questions and I'll give answers as appropriate, as this is an ongoing and open criminal investigation. First, thank you for being here today. I'm here to provide an update on the ongoing investigation that's led to the arrest of 3 educators assigned here at Newman International Academy, Gibbins, after receiving credible information regarding allegations of inappropriate conduct involving educators and students. Our department launched a thorough investigation. Through witness interviews, evidence collection, and collaboration with other law enforcement partners, we obtained sufficient probable cause to secure both search, seizure, and arrest warrants, which were all signed by Tarrant County District Criminal Court judges. All individuals that we have current arrest warrants for were taken into custody for felony level charges. They were booked and processed into the Tarrant County Jail immediately following their arrests. While the legal process will determine the final outcome, I want to be clear. The safety and well-being of our students and students from other schools is my personal highest priority. As a victim myself of a child sexual crime, I'm not playing. Other educators at other school districts and at churches that failed to take appropriate action and passed the trash will be held accountable. We are working with partners at the federal, state, and other local agencies as appropriate. I want to make one thing absolutely clear. We are far from completing our work on this case and other cases involving the sexual exploitation of students in one of the safe havens that should be a safe haven, schools. We will continue to investigate all leads and potential victims related to these suspects and our case, no matter where they are. Our detectives are actively following every piece of information, and we will not rest until we pursue justice to the fullest extent available under the law for these victims to ensure their voices are heard. Additionally, this investigation is not limited to incidences on our campuses. We are currently looking into potential victims at other campuses, both here and in other states across our country. These victims are potentially connected to the already identified suspects in this case. These educational institutions and churches that have come on our radar will be served with search warrants soon. Moreover, information uncovered during our investigation has raised concerns about institutions not only in Texas, but in additional states. We will work with the FBI and Homeland Security investigations as appropriate. We are currently getting participation from those local entities outside of Texas and those partners are doing investigations in their states connected to our case. We remain actively examining whether institutions have failed to report illegal sexual contact to law enforcement as required by law. I also want to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude for the full support and cooperation provided by our school district. My superintendent has made it clear we will not place our institution's reputation over the life safety of our victims, unlike other institutions have. We would not be here today if others acted and intervened as they are expected to, both educators and adults. I am incredibly impressed with the focus and commitment of my school district, particularly the leadership of Dr. Sheba George, our superintendent. She has made it clear to me as the police chief, anyone found to have done anything wrong in this case shall be placed on administrative leave. If they violated school policy or state law, they will be terminated and prosecuted as it's appropriate. The school district's decisive actions and unwavering dedication to protecting students has been instrumental in our success and speed at which we place these individuals under arrest. In addition to the supporting law enforcement investigators that I'm going to reserve naming, thank you. Our school district is committed to work with you, evaluating all aspects of these situations. We're also going to look at the school district policies, procedures, best practices, because they've obviously failed. The playbook in schools in America is not working. The playbook in churches is not working. We must do better. Newman International Academy is working to ensure that every necessary safeguard is in place as we move forward. We understand that this situation is deeply, deeply concerning to parents and students everywhere and our greater community. We urge anyone with information regarding the sexual exploitation of students connected to Newman International Academy to email us at report@newmaninternationalacademy.org. Again, newmanacademy.org. Report@newmanacademy.org. Due to the sensitive nature of these investigations, I am limited in what details I can give you. I will not speak of our victims, other than we've identified 2 victims that are students of this campus. No other victims have been identified at this time on any Newman campus connected to these offenses. But please be assured, my team and I are personally committed to full transparency through this process. I want to thank you for listening. And I'd like to speak to the moms and dads right now that are watching. I'm sorry that churches and schools are not safe. I'm sorry that law enforcement, educators, and our community is not doing better. Anyone that thinks this is a Newman International Academy problem is blind and needs to wake up. It is deeply personal to me. And as long as I can, I'm going to continue to investigate the exploitation of children. I'm going to bring to bear every aspect of law enforcement I can and work with the justice system to ensure that these people don't work around children anymore. With that, I'll take a few questions. Ma'am?
When you talked about the trash being passed around, are you insinuating that they somehow fell through the cracks of a background check or something of that nature? Can you elaborate, please?
I'd love to elaborate. Background checks are only as good as the information in the background check. Here at Newman, we follow best practices, the TEA guidelines on managing the onboarding of new staff. These individuals had nothing in their background to lead us to believe that they had even committed an offense. What I know, not what I'm speculating, ma'am, is that we have come to knowledge of incidences at other institutions in DFW where they failed to take action when we know that they were aware of what occurred on their grounds by their employee that they allowed to resign while under investigation. Not acceptable.
Chief, I know you can't speak on the victims, but can you tell us what launched this investigation?
I'd love to. That's the one glimmer of hope I have, ma'am. 2 young 7th grade girls went to my police officer on this campus and said, I'm seeing something that's not right, and I need to tell you about it. That happened at 9:30 in the morning, and at 1 p.m. that afternoon, we had a probable cause warrant issued by a district judge, and he was in Tarrant County Jail. I want to be clear on this. The speed of this incident, the suspect was in jail 5 hours after the outcry.
What do you have to say to those 7th grade girls and others who may know something and have been afraid to come forward? What is your message of thanks to those young ladies?
First, man, I'm so proud. I'm a dad of 4 and a grandfather of 4. 3 girl daughters and, well, 1 granddaughter. What courage it takes for a young lady to step up and say, this isn't okay. To the other kids that are out there that are just wondering whether I should say something, say it again, say it again, say it again. Don't stop saying it until someone steps up and does what's right. Here at Newman, we're going to do what's right, period. And if this is not acceptable, there's no universe where this kind of behavior is acceptable.
A parent told me that in the earlier meeting with the listening session with parents that you used the words, it's like dominoes falling.
Actually, I want to give credit where credit's due. One of my detectives said that.
Where will those dominoes fall?
I don't know.
Here, elsewhere?
I don't know. I've been a cop a minute. And I learned a long time ago to stop trying to figure out where it's going to take you and just let the facts drive you where you're going. I'm going to turn every rock over until I find everything and shine light on this because it's disgusting behavior and it's not acceptable. And so we don't know where it's going to take us, but we're going to follow every lead and deal with every single situation. And I just want to be clear. I've been a chief for a minute, about 4 years. And I came into this job with the understanding that I was going to be transparent with my community first and you media second. And the reason I didn't talk to you until now is because I needed to make sure moms and dads got to hear from me first. It was a difficult conversation, as it should have been. We're going to do what we can, but we're going to do it right. We don't need to violate people's rights to do this right. We can do the job that needs to be done above board and correct and give voices to those that need to have their voices heard.
Chief, can you talk more about the church possibly tied to one of the suspects?
Sure. We're looking at 3 separate churches, 2 in Texas and 1 in a state that I'm not willing to disclose at this time. We do know that our suspect was a youth pastor at a church as a second job beyond his responsibilities as an educator. Personally, I love me some Jesus. I have deep faith. Makes me mad. This is the reasons why people don't trust churches and schools. At some point, we've got to realize we've got to speak up, and we've got to say no. Not in my church, not in my school. Maybe, to answer further your question, some moms and dads and administrators of schools need to look at the example of some 7th grade girls and do what's right.
Thank you. Chief, you said somebody was under investigation and resigned at a different school. Is that correct? Can you?
So yeah, again, I've got to be careful because it's an open investigation. So here's what I'll say about that. First, Principal Adams, who was arrested on 5 felony counts. I want to talk about that for a moment, and then I'm going to get to answering that through that, if that's okay. If you tamper with evidence, if you tamper with witnesses, and you fail to report, I'm going to criminally charge you. I think it's an important detail for you to hear. His bond was 5 times higher than the individuals that violated the trust as educators. And I think that's spot on. I think maybe if we were as a society to say, if you don't report it, we're going to drop the hammer on you too, maybe more people would report it. So while he was being investigated regarding those criminal offenses, he resigned from this institution. So his employment has been separated. As it stands right now, 3 people have been separated, 2 were fired, our 2 suspects, 1 of grooming, 1 of inappropriate relationship, and the 3rd, the principal. We know and have information and are speaking to victims that were at the other institutions as students, now adults, and we better corroborate that individuals that have been arrested here had committed offenses like these offenses, and they were allowed to resign. Their licenses weren't targeted. They weren't adjudicated in court. They didn't go to jail. And so to me, that I think the story in the story is the failures. We have failures here, make no mistake about it, or we wouldn't be here. But the failures, it's an epidemic. Gennequin's law brings that to light in a lot of ways. For those of you who don't know about that law, it was passed by the Texas legislature and recently, in December, became federal law and was signed into law prior to the administration change. And this is a law that talks through not just education for adults, but it also provides some consequences when things don't happen. I was in touch with her earlier in text messages. She's become a friend of mine over the couple years now. And she was encouraging me, tell me, Chief, say the hard things, and say them loudly, forcibly. You all have reach. We have authority. I challenge you, media. Don't stop beating the drum that this isn't okay. I scrolled Facebook last night and then moved over to Google. And I got sick and had to get up from bed about 3 in the morning because I was just curious how many other cases are like this right now. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and continued to scroll. And then I was finished the last month. I've got to do better.
Chief, has your investigation told you how long this inappropriate behavior had been happening before those students were courageous enough to come forward?
We're not going to answer that at this time. But I will tell you that we're looking at every interaction with those educators and these students. And the reason I don't want to tell you that detail is because it is an open and ongoing criminal investigation. And I just looked at the lead investigator and he said, let's not share that right now.
No worries.
But I'll get back with you. I hope we're not done talking after today.
Well, as long as you take my calls.
I'll take it, ma'am. As long as you'll put it on the news and keep beating the drum with me.
You got it.
Yes, ma'am?
Do you have any indication that this was reported before but maybe ignored?
Yes, we do.
What was the report?
That's why he's in jail. I think he bonded out. He bonded out already. Failure to report. We determined that prior to 48 hours from the law enforcement side of the school district finding out about this incident through those young ladies, there were some actions that were reported that were not reported by the principal.
Any sign that this was reported even long before that?
No, ma'am.
Can you speak to what the inappropriate actions were?
There was sexual contact, and other than that, I'm not going to elaborate. That's in the probable cause affidavit as well. I want to be clear, too, is that there were 2 separate incidences. You guys have gotten probably 3, maybe 4 press releases from us. On the Little case, we have not filed charges and don't anticipate charges at this time for sexual contact. But for the other case, sexual contact did occur, And now we're looking at additional charges related to that sexual contact beyond what we've already filed. We anticipate more criminal charges coming on the suspects that we've arrested.
Can you talk about the thought process of not involving an outside agency in this?
We have involved them.
And again, just for the record, you're not naming them at this time.
Yeah, we're working with some federal partners right now and with some other agencies. And the reason I don't want to be clear about that right in this moment is because if I say that, I have a feeling my suspects are watching this, and I don't want them to know where I'm moving with my investigation. And so if I say we're working with this agency, then they could take actions to put barriers in my way of investigating it. But I can assure you, we're working with other law enforcement agencies, and we're gonna have to because of the scope of the investigation.
Chief, because you shared that you were a child victim,
Sure.
Was that spontaneous? Did you plan to share that today?
I've only been talking about that for about a year. See, back when I grew up, I'm older than most of you. There was a lot of shame for victims. I never got justice, by the way. My perpetrator's in jail because of other victims. And so it wasn't my plan to share it today, but I think it's important for people to hear this. This is deeply personal for all of us. And, you know, I get my justice when I get other people justice. And so I've learned, because the good Lord's taught it to me, that he can fix anything. Through him, all things can be endured. And so for me personally, my faith is where it is in large part because of what happened to me and how I've learned to let that be fuel. And so it's not something that I'm ashamed of anymore. I was a child. Child can't consent. I was in my own home by a family friend. Safest place you can be is in your home. My first act of violence against me occurred in my own bedroom with my parents downstairs. So no, I didn't plan to share that. But here's what I'm going to tell you. We have a choice to make as a society. We can either keep pretending like this isn't happening and keep pretending that our actions as adults, that we're not responsible for what happens if other people do it. But the reality of it is, if you know something and you don't say something, in Matt Ankoviak's opinion, not a police chief, you are just as guilty for it. Now, the law may say it a little differently, and I'm going to work within the boundaries of the law to bring justice and voices to the kids that need that to happen until God calls me home. And I hope when I get there, he can explain to me what doesn't make sense to me, the things that I had to go through. But what I do know, he's going to say, well done, because I'm not stopping. We're going to beat this drum. We're going to continue to beat this drum. And I hope that if you're listening to this, that you get to the point where you say it's not acceptable too. And you do something about it. Because if you don't, you're going to see him too someday. Wonder what he's going to say to you.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you
With that,
so
we're going
much.
to close the press conference. You guys have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for sharing with us.
Absolutely.
I hung up. I hung up from the IFB to save my phone battery.
Side door guy.